Hey friends, it's Liz, the official craft nerd, and today I'm doing something a little bit different. I wanted to show you some resin work projects that I made, and yeah, let's get right on into it. So when working with resin, they typically come in these two parts, A and B, and resin work is really, there's a science to it. You have to make sure that you're measuring your equal parts and getting it stirred correctly for a long enough time, and there's a lot of things involved. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting with part A, and this is my epoxy part A, and I wanted to measure it out. Now, of course, my cups that I had currently were smaller cups, and so I have to do this kind of multiple times throughout the process because I did not have any large cups. So basically I'm filling these cups up about halfway. All these cups are measuring cups, so they do have all your measurements on the sides, so you can equally measure out your parts because you want to have equal amounts between part A and part B. If that ratio is off, it is going to screw up your epoxy, and it is going to not let it set correctly, and it'll be forever sticky, and that is not what we want. So basically what I'm doing, as you see, is I put part A in one and I'm going to put part B in the other. With each of these, I do stir both of these by themselves, probably a good 3 to 4 minutes each. And I know that sounds pretty extensive, but there's a whole process behind, a whole reason behind stirring them. It's going to help with the bubbles that are in the epoxies, and also it kind of like activates it. At least that's what I feel it does. I am by no means a professional at, doing epoxy projects or resin projects. This is just something that I have dabbled in here and there over the past few years, and really truly it's something that I absolutely love to do. I just, I've kind of been on this other kick lately with other projects. So, I felt like it was time to kind of revisit this and bring this back because there's so many cool things that you can do and make with resin. So anyway, as you can see here, this is what I'm doing, just kind of stirring these up. While I'm doing that, I do want to do a shameless plug here. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram. My account is Official Craft Nerd, not The Official Craft Nerd. That account had been hacked. So I'll leave the links down below for you to check me out on other social media. So back to the stirring, and you're going to see a lot of stirring, you guys. This is truthfully probably the most painstaking process of this is the amount of stirring. And as you can see, like my wrist started to hurt there. But you want to make sure that they're both equally stirred for a good amount of time. Once they're ready, then I transfer it over to another cup. And again, this is where a larger cup would have come into play here, but I did not have one on hand. And so I have to mix these amounts into this one cup. Now, with the measurement that I used, it did fit in the cup. I was able to stir it. But if I would have had just a little bit more in there, it would not have worked. Resin, you'll notice if you've ever worked with this before, it is quite sticky. You do want to have gloves on when you're using this. You do want to be in a very well ventilated room, preferably with windows open, and even wearing a mask. I do know a lot of resin workers that if this is something they're using and working with all day long, you definitely should have a mask on. So you do want to take safety precautions, of course, when using this. But the outcome is just so incredible. I love working with resin. And you can see I'm just kind of taking my time trying to get it to all drain out. A lot of this stuff, it's so sticky. I mean, it does not stick permanently to these, I want to say rubber, and I know I'm having a brain fart here. But these types of silicone, there you go, the silicone cups, it doesn't stick to it, which is great. That helps for cleanup and everything like that. but it does kind of take its time to get all of that drained out into your mixing cup. So with that being said, now I am getting my mold ready. This is a Trinket box mold that I found on Amazon, and I can link that down below for you guys. And I thought this would be super cute to make this little trinket box or jewelry box or whatever you decide you want to use it for. And just make it something special for, you know, my mom for Mother's Day, or for my daughter, or, you know, whatever. And it's set up really nice. It's a silicone mold. It does have these wood, easily put together slats on the side just to kind of keep the shape for it. And I'm just, you know, I started pouring this just down into the sides. I wanted to make sure that it was getting evenly coated. And truthfully, I didn't have to worry about being so clean, but I'm so particular that I didn't want to get it on that middle box, even though that middle part there is going to be covered anyway, because this is technically the bottom of our box. But, you know, I still continued to pour it nice and smooth down the sides. And I did have to do 2 different measuring cups of this full for this box in particular, mainly because these cups were so small, and this box is not huge, but it was not going to be enough to make my complete box. But what I wanted to do is on the sides of these is just kind of add some decoration, because this was clear resin. So of course I could color it, I could do different things, but for this I wanted to keep it clear. But I wanted to add some of these red twigs, and these are from those dried wood plants from Dollar Tree, and I just thought it would look really kind of nice and chic, and, you know, still keeping with my aesthetic of, you know, my shabby chic style. So I thought this would be really cool. So you just see me kind of pressing these twigs down into the sides of my trinket tray, and then once I have enough in there, I'm going to go ahead and start adding more resin so we can complete the process. So here I'm just topping off the base of my trinket tray, and you can see there's so many bubbles in there, and I'll show you what I do after this to kind of help with those. But, you know, like I said before, guys, I'm not perfect, so I knew there was going to be bubbles and things like that going on with this, and I really didn't care because I feel like it still looks pretty cool. And really here, I just kind of stuck a twig underneath the one side, because I don't know if my house is lopsided or what, but I felt like it wasn't settling even, and so I wanted it to set even. So I just kind of propped it up on that little twig, and it was perfect. Anyway, at this point I'm doing the lid, and I had made a 3rd batch of my resin for the lid itself, and that was able to completely cover up the lid here and get that set. And then of course I'm going to add some twigs and decoration inside the lid as well. So what I did here was I took my heat gun, and I am just kind of hitting the resin with the heat. Now, most resin workers will use like this little torch thing. It's pretty awesome. I don't have one of those, so all I could think was to use my heat gun to kind of help pop those bubbles, because that's what the heat will do. That's what the heat will do. Do y'all hear me, you guys? That is what the heat does, is pops any of those air bubbles that's in there. I was messing around with this because the little twigs kept wanting to float out, and so I was having to continuously kind of stick them in there. But again, it was probably, you know, just a lesson learned if I'm going to use something like that again. But in any case, here we are to the reveal. This is my favorite part. So for resin work, you do want to let it cure for 24 to 48 hours. I truthfully should have left this for 48 because of how much was in this. But I did crack it open at 24. It is still okay. It's still done, but I think it could have went another 24 hours. Anyway, as you can see, this is how easy it was to take that wood casing off. And now I'm just going to peel back my silicone mold and just see the awesomeness that is inside which made me so excited that this came out so nice. And you can see just how easily this just pulls right on out. I love, 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 love silicone molds. I mean, for everything. So there is the box, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so darling. Definitely was what I was picturing. I really wish I would have had like some more flowers or something to put in there, but you know, I think it turned out super, super nice. Even with the lid, see now right there, you see how it kind of bent a little bit? That's because it wasn't fully cured. Anytime with resin, if it's not fully cured, you're going to notice that it has still a lot of bend to it. It may actually still be sticky in some spots, and you know, you can screw stuff up real easy. But and if you can see the close up here, you can see my bubbles. But you know what? I didn't mind it. I really felt like it just added to the charm of my box. So I really don't care. But next time around, I may try, you know, stirring it a little bit better, or I don't know, who knows. With these boxes, you can kind of tell there's some edging on the bottom. If you could take some sandpaper, that will sand right off and smooth it out. So super, super easy. But yeah, you guys, I totally loved how this thing turned out. I thought it was so super sweet. And yeah, you can see there's a little bit of rippling in there. And I think that has to do with either the curing process time and maybe even with the mixture. Who knows? But I think for my first time doing a Trinket box, this turned out pretty cool and I like it. So here it is, just kind of set up for you guys to see, you know, different things you could do. Of course, I just did my little flowers and doilies like I love, and I think it's so stinking cute. You guys, let me know what you think. You know, again, I get it if this stuff is not your jam, and you totally don't have to watch the rest of this video if you don't want to. But I really appreciate you guys for sticking around if this is something that might interest you. Okay, so rolling right into the second project, I am doing this super cute wine set mold. Basically, it is a holder that goes over top your wine bottle, and it hangs 2 glasses. And then the 2 round molds there are going to be your coaster molds. So I'm basically doing the same thing that I did for my Trinket box, is mixing up my individual parts, part A and part B of my epoxy. And again, mixing them each for about 3 to 4, even 5 minutes separately. And then once I mix them together, I'm mixing them for about 5 minutes as well. Basically, this is a time frame that works best for me that I've noticed with my epoxy, but each epoxy is a little different. So you will have to test that out if you decide to try this out yourself. So I decided I wanted to add in some alcohol inks, and I'm using my Tim Holtz alcohol inks. I absolutely love them, and thought this would be a super fun project to play with them with. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to get my coaster molds first, and I'm going to start just evenly pouring this out. Epoxy does kind of settle on its own, so you can kind of just take it a little bit slowly, and you'll see how it just sort of settles down. I did have to make, I believe I made 3 batches for this as well, or maybe it was 2. I don't remember at this point, but it took 1 batch to pretty much get both coasters full, but you will have to make at least another batch and a half to complete the longer piece. So this is the fun part. You are just going to take that alcohol ink and kind of dribble it wherever on these coasters. I just kind of wanted to do the darker color on the inside first and work my way out. And it is, I just love working with alcohol ink and resin because it just does its own thing. There's not a whole lot that you need to do. Now I do kind of mess with it here in a minute, but it is so cool because you don't have to do a whole lot with it. It'll just take a life of its own and start mutating, and well, maybe mutating isn't the right word, but you know what I mean. It's just going to kind of create its own art by itself. And this is to me is the best part of this, because it is so comforting and relaxing, and I don't know, I just love watching the inks just kind of form together and do their thing. So I was going to do a pink, and then I changed my mind and went towards this more indigo color, and I loved how it reacted with this mermaid blue color that I have. And what I decided to do was kind of mess with it. So I'm going to swirl it around, and this is something you can take anything. Like I wish I had like a pen or something, I would have used that, but I just used a popsicle stick and just started dragging the colors around and out. And what's so cool about it is as the epoxy settles and cures and, you know, dries, it's going to still move. It's still going to shift. And so I knew that whatever design I'm putting in here, it's still going to change over time as this starts to cure. And that's what's the fun about this, because it's going to change on you, and you're going to, you know, let it cure for the 24 to 48 hours and come back and just see what it decided to do. And it'll be this beautiful art piece surprise. You know, I love working with alcohol inks and resin. You do want to be mindful, of course, of how much of the alcohol ink that you put in there, because you do not want to offset that epoxy ratio as far as, you know, so it'll dry correctly, because if you have too much in there, it's going to affect it. So just kind of be careful with that. I thought I was going to be all cool and glamorous and, you know, add some of this gold leaf in there. First, my mind was I wanted to have the whole borders of these coasters with the gold leaf. Then, as I realized that I probably should have put the leaf in before pouring in the resin, I'm thinking that might have been the way to do it, because trying to get this gold leaf down into the resin after the fact was a little bit of a challenge. So that's why you kind of see me kind of just trying to poke it down in there. And it was, you know, it just didn't want to sink. It wanted to float. And I realized, yeah, this isn't going to work. So I'm only going to use a little bit. And that's going to be all she wrote for the leaf, the gold leaf on this project. I did go back to my mixing cup that had, you know, whatever had settled in the cup for my resin. And I am just kind of dribbling it over top where I placed the gold leaf, mainly so it would help settle it down and seal it in better. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to figure out a different way to put the gold leaf in these, because I know it's beautiful. It was just not working with me on this particular project. And again, I'm just hitting this with my heat gun just to kind of blow out any bubbles. This worked a lot better for this particular project, getting out the bubbles, than it did on the Trinket tray. So that's a whole other different project I'm going to have to work on trying to get bubbles out. But with this, it worked out pretty cool. So as you can see, this is after it's cured for 24 hours. Again, I probably should have waited 48, but it was still, you know, ready to pop out. These were so pretty. I loved it. And you can see how the alcohol ink did its own thing in the resin as it cured. And it just, you guys, these are gorgeous. I loved how these colors work together. And truthfully, like, I really wish I could have got the gold leaf to do its thing, but, you know, next time. But yeah, and you saw how that bent a little bit because it needed more time to cure. Like, I let it sit for another 48 hours before we've even touched it or messed with it. But for the sake of the video, I did put it on my wine bottle to show you guys. But don't be alarmed that it kind of looks like it's a little saggy. I really wanted to showcase it with the wine glasses hanging, but because it wasn't fully cured, it wasn't gonna look right. But this is kind of the idea of it. And you guys, these things are so fun and so cute. I can't wait to make more. So thanks again for watching, guys. And if you're new here, I hope you stick around, hit that subscribe button below. And if you're returning, thanks again, you guys. I love y'all. And until next time, stay safe.